Imagine falling from 1 kilometer high, trapped inside a giant foam ball. You're about to slam into concrete at 120 miles per hour, or maybe you'll crash into a lake or plunge into desert sand. 3 surfaces, 3 chances at survival, only one question. Would the foam save you, or would physics seal your fate? This is What If. 1 kilometer. That's 3,280 feet, higher than the Eiffel Tower, taller than most skyscrapers. From that height, a free-falling object reaches terminal velocity in seconds, plummeting at over 120 miles per hour. For a human body, that's instant death on impact. But what if we changed the rules? Picture this, a 3-meter diameter sphere, about the size of a small room, made from high-density, energy-absorbing foam. Inside, a network of heavy-duty springs acts like a secondary shock absorber. You're strapped in at the center, cocooned in layers of engineered protection. This isn't a bouncy castle or a stunt airbag. This is a hybrid impact absorption system designed to do one thing: turn a fatal fall into something survivable. The question is, can it actually work? Before we drop our foam ball, let's talk about why falling kills you. When you hit the ground from a great height, your body goes from moving very fast to completely stopped in a fraction of a second. That sudden deceleration creates G-forces, measurements of how many times the force of gravity you're experiencing. Anything above 50 Gs, even for a split second, and your organs start to rupture. Your brain slams against your skull, your bones shatter. So how do you survive? You slow down gradually. Think of it like this. Would you rather catch a baseball barehanded or with a glove? The glove spreads out the impact over time. Your hand still stops the ball, but it doesn't hurt because the stopping happens slowly. That's exactly what our foam ball does. The outer shell is made of high-density foam, firm enough to hold its shape, but compressible enough to crush on impact. When it hits the ground, the foam crumples inward, absorbing energy and buying time. Inside, the spring mechanism acts like a secondary layer of defense, flexing and stretching to further cushion the human payload. But here's the catch. Foam can only compress so much. Once it's fully squashed, it becomes as hard as the ground beneath it. If the fall is too fast or the surface too unforgiving, even the best foam in the world won't save you. So let's test it. 3 surfaces, 3 outcomes, starting with the worst-case scenario. Our foam ball drops from 1 kilometer above a concrete parking lot. For the first few seconds, it's in free fall, accelerating due to gravity. The sphere tumbles through the air, picking up speed. By the time it's halfway down, it's moving at roughly 90 miles per hour. Air resistance slows it slightly, but not much. This ball is heavy and dense. And then, impact. The foam shell hits the concrete and immediately begins to compress. The outer layers crumple like a car's crumple zone, absorbing energy. But here's the problem. Concrete doesn't give. It's rigid, unforgiving. The foam compresses fast, too fast. Within milliseconds, the outer shell is fully crushed. Now the springs kick in. They stretch and flex, trying to slow the human inside. But the deceleration is brutal. Even with the foam doing its job, the G-forces spike to somewhere between 40 and 60 Gs. For context, fighter pilots experience around 9 Gs during extreme maneuvers and can black out. Roller coasters max out at about 5 Gs. So what happens to the human inside? Best case, severe injuries. We're talking broken ribs, fractured vertebrae, possible internal bleeding. The brain experiences rapid deceleration, leading to concussion or traumatic brain injury. The person might survive, but they'd need immediate medical attention. Worst case, the G-forces exceed the threshold for survivability. Organs rupture, the spine fractures in multiple places. The impact is simply too much, too fast. Verdict: survival is possible but unlikely. Even with the foam and springs, concrete is just too hard. The stopping time isn't long enough to keep the G-forces in the survivable range. Now let's drop the same foam ball from the same height, but this time over a deep lake. Water seems soft, right? We dive into pools all the time. But here's the thing. Water is only soft if you're moving slowly. At high speed, water behaves almost like concrete. Belly flop from a diving board and you'll feel it. Now imagine hitting water at over 100 miles per hour. Our foam ball plunges into the lake. The moment it hits the surface, something interesting happens. The water doesn't compress, it moves. The ball punches through, displacing thousands of gallons of water in an instant. The foam shell compresses, but not as violently as it did on concrete. The water offers some give, slowing the ball as it sinks. But here's where things get complicated. The ball doesn't stop immediately. It plunges deep, maybe 10, 15, even 20 meters underwater before the water resistance finally brings it to a halt. The deceleration is more gradual than concrete, but it's still intense. The springs inside stretch and compress, working overtime. The person inside experiences a jarring, drawn-out stop, like being in a car that slams on the brakes hard but doesn't hit a wall. The G-forces peak at maybe 25 to 35 Gs, still dangerous but below the lethal threshold. So what happens to the person inside? Whiplash, disorientation, possible rib fractures or spinal compression. But here's the key, they're likely conscious. The foam and springs, combined with water's gradual resistance, stretched the impact out just enough. And then there's the next problem, getting out. The ball is underwater, possibly sinking or floating back up depending on its buoyancy. If the person inside is injured, panicked, or trapped, they could drown before rescue arrives. Verdict: survival is likely with serious injuries. Water offers just enough cushioning to keep the G-forces survivable. Broken bones and soft tissue damage are almost guaranteed, but death on impact? Probably avoided. The real danger becomes what happens after the splash. Finally, we drop the foam ball in the middle of a vast desert, deep, loose sand dunes stretching in every direction. This is where things get interesting. Sand is neither as hard as concrete nor as fluid as water. It's somewhere in between, a granular material that can compress, shift, and absorb energy in unique ways. The foam ball slams into the sand dune. The outer foam compresses, just like before, but the sand beneath it, it collapses inward, creating a crater. The ball sinks deep into the dune, maybe 2 or 3 meters down. The sand particles scatter and flow around the sphere, acting like a cushion. The deceleration is much more gradual. The foam compresses, the sand gives way, the springs inside do their job. The stopping time is stretched out to nearly half a second, an eternity compared to the concrete impact. The G-forces peak at maybe 20 to 15 Gs, painful, dangerous, but survivable. What does the person experience? A violent jolt, similar to a high-speed car crash with airbags. Whiplash is likely, bruising from the harness, possibly a concussion from the rapid deceleration. But the bones stay mostly intact, the organs don't rupture. The brain, while rattled, doesn't slam against the skull with fatal force. When the dust settles, literally, the person is buried in a sand crater inside a dented foam ball, probably bruised and shaken, but alive. So, what have we learned? Dropping a human from 1 kilometer inside a foam ball isn't as crazy as it sounds, but it's not a guaranteed ticket to survival either. The science is clear. It all comes down to stopping time. The longer you take to go from fast to stopped, the lower the G-forces and the better your chances. On concrete, the foam and springs help, but it's still a coin flip. On water, you'll probably survive the impact, but drowning becomes the next threat. On sand, that's your best bet. Soft, energy-absorbing, and forgiving. But here's the bigger picture. This thought experiment isn't just about foam balls and crazy stunts. It's about understanding the physics of survival. Every airbag in your car, every crumple zone, every safety feature ever designed, they all work on the same principle. Give the impact time. Stretch it out. Let the energy dissipate slowly. Because in the end, it's not the fall that kills you, it's the stop. Thanks for watching What If. If you survived this episode, hit that like button. And if you want to see what other wild scenarios we can test, subscribe and let us know in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep asking, what if?